Good evening. Welcome to the Better Players, Better People podcast. This evening, I'm joined by Mrs. Fiona Harris, a member of my PE team. And today we're going to be talking about all things female sport. Before we start, let's try and relax a little bit. I want to ask how your day was, because we've just been laughing and joking. It's 8:30 now. We've got to go home and the kids will be in bed. But how was your day? Because what time did you start this morning?
I was not on an ECA this morning, so I was in for just after 7 o'clock.
Oh, lying.
Bit of a lion. Yeah.
Okay. So, Fiona, thank you for coming on this evening. We've had conversations in the office since you've joined my school in Dubai about the unfortunate issue with female sport and the dropout rates and so on. So we've both done a bit of research. We'll share what I've learned today. I don't mind sharing that on the podcast. I did learn something new today, but let's get into it. What is the issue with female sport then?
So, as you say, we have been discussing it, and the age dropout is around about 13, 14 that we're seeing a significant amount of students dropping out of sport. And we've had multiple discussions in all PE departments that I've been in, and there's a variety of different reasons. One being body image and how body image is portrayed on social media and things like that. And social media can be a powerful tool, but can also be quite a negative tool. And I think with students nowadays being on their phones quite a bit, that is something that they're constantly seeing all the time. Another thing is kit or uniform, as we call it, PE kits, and how schools sort of insist on shorts and T-shirt and things like that. And I think I've been very fortunate enough to work in some schools that have shifted away from that and allow students to be wearing leggings or even fleeces back in the UK as well, which has allowed students sometimes to have a little bit of cover up to enforce that. And then sometimes it's friendships. I think a lot of, if their friends are shifting away from sport, they tend to try and potentially join that situation, and it's really hard to go against a friendship union than it is to stand alone and be like, I play sport. And
we could list off we could go through the list, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Of factors. I've got them in front of me to make sure I had the notes down. Before we continue in that vein, and everything you've said there is so it's right, but it's powerful for parents, teenage girls, to hear that we're sitting here as two leaders of PE. We want girls to be active. We know the benefits of physical activity. We don't need to go over that. But unfortunately, we're in a situation where, and I said this to you the other week, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but a girl will decide at 9 or 10 whether she's going to continue in sport, but she won't show you until she's around 13. And what happens between those ages of 9 and 10 and 13 is obviously the fallout of love with whatever activity they've played. But then we end up in a situation where the numbers of females is significantly less than males. But we know physical activity, sport also is for them. So you've mentioned their body image, you've mentioned kit. Let's talk about kit, because I've probably been guilty of being quite strict in terms of this is the kit, this is what we want to see our kids wear. But I think we have to be flexible with that, don't we? Certainly with teenage girls.
Yeah, definitely. I think from experience, especially being a female myself, if you're comfortable in what you're wearing, you are more likely to participate in whatever activity it is that you're doing. Yeah. We have shifted away like 10, 12 years of my career from wearing, it used to be when I was at school, gym shorts, and we used to have to wear these gym shorts, and then it went to like normal shorts, and now we're in the leggings era. And I'm seeing a lot more students willingly participate in physical activity, PE lessons, bring in the kit. I know we allow them to come in their PE kit, which is great, but bring in the kit and participating a lot more as a result of that, especially in the two schools that I've worked in across. When we've had that change, the participations have definitely increased, and they just make them feel a lot more comfortable. The more comfortable they are, the more likely they are to participate in the activity. That's
it. Ultimately, we want them to be active, don't we?
Yeah.
I think back to lessons I've had when you don't really care what they've got on. Like, I probably shouldn't say that as a director of sport, and we've got kit standards and uniform and so on, but what you really want is them to be active. Yeah. So I think if you can not relax the expectations, is probably just is know this coming and design your expectations as such and allow for a bit more freedom in terms of what the girls are wearing. Definitely. You also mentioned social anxiety. We don't need to go over really social media. We know the dangers of that. I think schools here, certainly our school is one, have removed phones. Hopefully we'll see an impact of that, long term. But the social anxiety. Let's touch on that, because when we get to secondary, we split. Boys and girls go separate ways, but we still unfortunately have girls who are conscious about the body image and not wanting to take part. Let's talk a little bit more about the social anxiety.
I think here in Dubai, what I do like is the fact that they don't have to get changed. I think a lot of the things in the UK was that we were going in the change, they're in the uniforms all day, they come to PE, they're getting changed in front of other students. That caused a lot of issues. Here we don't have that, which is good. It's also encouraging that participation levels. But what I do find with social groupings and social anxiety is that, you know, as students become older, they have different interests. As they study more subjects, such as like photography and things like that, they have further interests. And you see some social friends either going one way or the other. They either split up as a social friend because they've got completely different interests and they follow sport or they follow something else. And a lot of parental influences on that as well. If you've got parents at home that are pushing academic, pushing GCSE results, things like that, they can shift a little bit away from activities outside of school. And then you might have some parents that are like, no, we find it still important that you're doing your physical activity outside of school and pushing it that way. So it depends. I think that depends on young adults, as we call them. And I feel like a lot of the sporty young adults tend to move together. So they find different friendship groups as they get through to year 8, year 9, as that drop-off comes off, and as their friends may drop off, they then obviously seek different friendship groups. Yeah,
it's like an unfortunate generational bias, because we know, and I've said this many times, it's not a new phrase, but sporty parents tend to make sporty kids. But what about the kids who haven't got sporty parents and haven't got that support network to balance academics and so on? What are we doing to cater for them, to keep them in activity and sport? So kit, we've got the kit aspect. We've got, I think there's an element of choice. I think we've got to make sure there's choice there. So I don't think being so strict in terms of curriculum. We were discussing swim, and swim is a part of the curriculum. We're a school that has a swimming pool. We want the kids to swim, but there's probably a realization there that that's going to put them in a situation where they've got to change. It's body conscious image. There's other activities we can do.
Yeah,
so I think it's about adapting that.
Yeah, I think as schools, there's a lot of things that we can do. The curriculum adaptations, definitely. I think having discussions with director of sports or head of secondary is going to be important moving forward for the girls, especially where we work, to ensure that we have the teacher experience of what the activities that we've done and the participation levels that we've seen in that and the interest in that. But as a whole of school, it's not just down to the PE department to support these students participating in sport. We can have role models that are outside of our PE departments. So here at the school that we teach at, we have form tutors. We can have a designated time at form where we talk about sporting experiences of the staff that are in that room, the students that are in that room, and we celebrate that. We can get ex-students that to come back and have these discussions, and we can have older students, year 12, year 13. We're lucky to be a through school. Mentoring down. So like talking to students in year 7, in year 8, where that disinterest is starting. What can we do? I'm year 13 and I still play. I'm still fighting for my place in Dubai Sevens. Like I'm still doing this. I'm still going to ECAs at 6:30. Why is it that you don't want to come anymore? What can we do to work together to do that? And those role models don't have to stem from professional athletes, you know, because some of these girls, they don't want to be professional athletes. They want to do it just to participate, and that's fine. And that's what we want. And we need to be looking at other ways to sort of support them in having a role model that isn't professional. It is still quite communal.
We can always do more.
We can always do more.
You've just reminded me of a conversation. We had the girls training on a Friday morning, and I did this last year, and this was something I've learned in previous schools, is to try and put the younger girls, the older girls in, you know, so the younger girls can see them. So I'll always try and schedule the primary girls training next to the seniors girls. And I actually made a point when we brought the girls in at the end of training, was that they're helping me keep those girls in sport because they're the role models. So I think you're completely right there that we can always do more, but it doesn't require much resource. It doesn't require bringing a new program in. It's just utilising the role models you've got. Teachers, what do you do? How do you keep fit and active?
Definitely.
And having those conversations. The Dubai Fitness Month was excellent for that, because we can, you know, bounce off the back of that, which is brilliant. Can you just tell me about the difference between UK and UAE? Because you mentioned something on the drive over, which I did say to you, I'm really pleased that you've said that.
Yeah.
Selfishly, because I live here and I've got a young girl who I want to be fit and active. She might not play sport, but I certainly wanted to enjoy exercise. Yeah. What's the difference you've seen in your time in the UAE compared to the UK?
So I was quite taken aback by joining a UAE school and finding out how many girls actually participated in sport. In the UK, we're at a bit of a point in some schools or in some areas where they just don't want to do it. They just don't want to play sport. The reasons are unknown, and a lot of the reasons in those areas are unknown. But here, it's the curriculum sets it up for the students to actually still participate. So we have every single year group, year 7 through to year 11, 2 hours a week. That's not the case in the UK. Like, apart from some of the grammar schools or some of the private schools, that a lot of the students are down to 1 hour from year 9. Because that's the bare minimum that the UK government sort of require, an hour of physical activity. But by you take into consideration that changing time, what is it, 40 minutes? It's not enough. It's not enough to keep students engaged. Yeah. Where here we have nearly 2 full hours, 55 minutes a lesson. They changed already when we're straight into it. We've always talked about like how active they are from the start. They come in, they register, they're going. Get a ball, do this, do that, whatever it is. They're active. Yeah. And I think that, for me, I was just very much that. And it's taken me a few weeks to be like, this is it. This is what it should be like. Yeah. Like, and, we're out there every ECA, even the ECAs that I'm not on. Yeah. I see girls play like rugby this morning, for example. Yeah. They're out there, they're playing. That's not my ECA. But we have 95 girls turning up on a Wednesday morning across 5 year groups doing netball. Yeah. Like, sometimes in the UK, it'd be a push to try and get maybe 14 in a year group. Yeah. You'd be struggling to get the team out in some year groups. You're not going to have that here. You're going to be, unfortunately, some kids won't make the team. And I find that amazing. And I, from a personal perspective, one of my goals while working here is to make sure that we don't say no to any kid. You're not playing because we only entered one team into the DASA League, for example. I want it to be where, okay, well, we've got 35 year 8 girls that are coming weekly from September. I want a performance and I want, a participation team in, and that's what we need to be looking at, not turning girls away. Yeah. And from that perspective.
For someone who's been outside the UK for a long time now, and all I can compare, and I do compare, is to my niece's schools. So my nieces back in the UK will dance. One of my nieces plays football, which I thought was brilliant. They do a bit of horse riding. I've got another niece who's rowing, and I love hearing that. I love it. I love hearing how well they're doing. But I thought that was really interesting when you said, compared to the UK, we're actually in a really good place here. We can get better. There's things we can do. Yeah. But I think for parents listening, and our girls at our school, well done. Keep going, and it's down to us to provide opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even the older year groups, I'm quite astonished, and I have these regular conversations. It's quite boring when you're both teachers and you go home and you talk about how amazing like things are. The year 10s and the year 11s, like the pushback in the UK can be massive from those year groups, especially even from leadership or from a school perspective, because it's about results, it's about academic. That's what they get judged on at the end of the day. But here it's like they can still do it, still have those opportunities. They're not, SLT or, principals are not saying, no, you can't go to that because you've got to go to this. Like, they're still playing 3 times a week. And to me, I'm just like, wow, that is amazing. Like, that's incredible.
Without going into your role in the UK, because that could be a whole new conversation, and we spoke about that on the way over, about the culture and you instilling a culture into one of the schools you went into. I just want to ask, what do I want to ask? I've forgotten now. I was just going to say something as you were talking there. What was it on? That was it. Academics. Mm-hmm. You're not the only one to say. We all know the pressure that parents, families, kids feel when it gets to the Key Stage 4, Key Stage 5 exams. You'll have a 2-year course and an exam will follow, or coursework during. So finding time for sport is difficult. Just as a question, what do you notice between the UK and here? Because you've got some under-19s teams that you take, and we will have to chase them up a little bit, but they're busy. They're busy girls. I feel here, and I might be wrong, maybe compared to the UK, there's a bit more of an understanding about the power of sport and exercise. And there was a study that come out, quite popular study, in terms of girls who play sport lead, and they go into leadership roles, or they work backwards from looking at female leaders. What did their school life look like? They played sport. What's that differ like in the UK? Is it different? Is there a less of an understanding of the power of sport and exercise?
I think they understand. I think they're knowledgeable to know it's important, it's necessary. But I think the expectations in UK schools and the lack of funding in UK schools ensures that there's not that ability to actually facilitate a lot of, especially a lot of the older students. So I know, like, in the school that I've just come from, we didn't really compete after year 8/9 for the girls. Maybe a couple of competitions or tournaments, but there were no regular fixtures for 10s and 11s. It was just a complete no-go because they had an extra period after school, which was like revision, like interventions, things like that, which just prevented them from doing extracurricular. And we wanted to push it. We're then working from 4:30 till 5:30 doing that extra session there. But then some of them go off and do their, you know, the clubs and things like that, which is fantastic still to hear and listen to what they're doing at weekends and after schools. But then that's a whole nother situation. They're training on Friday nights because they're not top priority of that club, if that makes sense. Where, like, here, it's instilled that you still want to do, we still want you to do that, absolutely. That's your respite. That is your you know, you get rid of all the muff that's going on in your brain. So it's great for them to be able to do that. And unfortunately, they don't have that provision in the UK, especially in some of the schools that I've looked at and worked in, which is really unfortunate.
It's a shame. And it's a shame, but at the same time, for us sitting here, it's nice to know that we're in a city, a country, an education system that allows for that, because it probably is not easy. It's certainly not easy for the UK to probably change the way they've gone now.
No.
Okay, you mentioned something about rugby. You mentioned rugby. Rugby at our school's strong, especially the girls' teams. Talk about role models. Tell me about the role models in rugby, because I know through Callum, your husband, and his involvement with the Rugby Federation in the UK. Let's talk about role models before we get onto the Lionesses. I think that's important to mention them.
Yeah.
Tell me about rugby and what role models look like for the girls in rugby.
I mean, everyone knows that on Saturday it was just the World Cup and we won the World Cup final. It was absolutely a phenomenal game. But I think with rugby, it shows that fitness isn't just one shape. Like, you don't have to be athletic. You don't have to have that. With rugby, fitness is everything. It's meeting the demands of the environment. Your environment is that rugby pitch. And those girls, or women, shall we say, they are showing our younger generation that you can be a professional in all shapes and sizes, and fitness doesn't mean one-dimensional. It means so many different things. And contact sports, people shy away with girls in contact sports, but we shouldn't be doing that. Like, girls can be just as good at contact sports as boys can. And I think with the rugby, the England rugby team, they have proven that they are just as good, if not better, because of, you know, how they train, their resilience, their teamwork, and they're showing this younger generation, do it. If that's your passion, that's what you want to do, go and get on that field, go and grab that ball, go and tackle that person, go and turn up to that ECA and do it and enjoy it. And if you get there ambition-wise and you go professional, fantastic. If you don't and you just play for lifelong participation, brilliant. Either way.
The role model thing now, I don't want to say there's been a lack of female role models. I think there has. The Williams sisters in tennis and so on. But what we've got now is the women's rugby team, the Lionesses. I think if schools are not jumping on that bandwagon and using it and putting it in front of the girls, they're missing a trick.
100%.
Because what amazing role models they are in terms of what they've achieved. They've surpassed the men.
Yeah.
They have absolutely surpassed the men. And this is not men versus women. It's not boys versus girls. It's not a slight at them. But we should be using them opportunities more. And that's something I'm reflecting on now, thinking we get our sports teams together every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We should be making sure, because we know the drop-off rate, we know that's a risk, is looking after them and probably catering for them a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Should we talk about puberty?
Why not?
Should we just say it?
Yeah.
Puberty. Because I learned something today, and I probably don't mind saying this. It's okay to keep learning, and you know, my girls too. So I've not experienced that in the house yet, but girls are having their puberty earlier, which I could not believe.
Yeah.
There's a few fellas in the office as well who were in disbelief, but that is because of diet. which is instigating hormones in the body. And then we've got this situation where it's not into secondary school. We've got girls who are in primary as well, which is impacting their involvement in sport and activity.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I learned when we had that conversation in the office was the lack of awareness.
Yeah. Definitely.
And hands up from someone who's responsible for designing programs. I think that awareness is key, isn't it? That we
Yeah, absolutely. So like we had a discussion about curriculums. I mean, like you say, we swim. Swimming is one that is gonna have a huge impact on when we have the menstrual cycle as a female. And as a 9-year-old, you're not going to choose the sanitary product that's going to allow you to still continue to swim. That you are too young for that situation. So what do? You sit on the side for a week, and then all of a sudden you start sitting on the side every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you're disinterested because you can't get in the pool. You love it. You love going in the pool. But there are a lot of sports that basically don't hold themselves to cater for that. Gymnastics being another one, where they're in leotards and things like that. You know, some football kits or some netball dress being the colour white.
Yeah.
All right. I hate the colour white for sport. Not because it can get dirty, but because as a female, and if that's your playing football and you're on your menstrual cycle, that's an issue because anything could happen. And then all of a sudden you've got this embarrassment and that will switch a girl off like that. Like they won't come back the week after. They won't come back, it'll take time for them to come back, build that confidence because unfortunately other people start talking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in a situation where we need to start catering for that.
But I think that also ties in, I've got my note here, coaching education.
Yeah.
I'd class that as coach and teacher education and being aware of these issues and these factors, because when we sit down to strategize or plan programs or schedule or even kit, because, unfortunately, if it's a male who's decided on what the football kit might be, it might not be on their radar to consider that. So I think it's...
Which is why it's important for teams, especially PE teams, to collaborate when it comes to those decisions. Because at the end of the day, female staff have been in the position of that 13-year-old, that 10-year-old, whoever it is. We've been there and we knew the barriers that we have faced and got over to still participate in sport at our age. And we can help and support with that and where we go, in what direction, to make sure that girls feel comfortable. And we've talked about how it's about feeling comfortable and safe playing in a sporting environment.
Yeah. Performance versus enjoyment, it says on my notes here. Before we discuss this topic here, there's research that I've always used when I'm sharing stats with principals or with parent forums in terms of number of kids can play competitive sport. And the behaviour science will tell us in males it's just higher than 50% are attracted to a competitive situation, are attracted to it. In females, it's slightly less. So when you are sharing stats on competitive teams, it might be slightly different, male and female. But 100% of your student cohort should absolutely access and enjoy physical activity. So I just wanted to mention that because performance and enjoyment versus enjoyment is part of this issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of girls just wanting to enjoy their activity, maybe go to the gym or do something that they enjoy and not always compete. Yeah,
so one thing being in a curriculum leadership role back in the UK that we looked at was how we're going to engage these students, especially after COVID. That we took quite a big hit in COVID, both male and female sports in schools in general. But as people were stuck in their homes, what were they doing? They were looking at video fitness routines. The girls started to enjoy things like Just Dance, which is literally the dance, the copying dance actions to one of their favourite pop art. And we started incorporating that in our UK curriculums because we'd had this drama studio that weren't being used at this particular time. And we had 20 year 11 girls who were so disengaged in your football, your netball, your rugby competitive element, the game scenarios, but would happily go in a group of 4 and do Waka Waka on Just Dance. And then some of these girls were coming out 40 minutes later sweating and enjoying and with smiles on their faces and red faces. And as a PE teacher, it's not about that going out there and what skill can we develop in football, what skill can we develop in rugby, what skill can we develop in netball, why are we not getting better at netball? It was more for me like, you've had 40 minutes, you enjoyed that, you can do that at home. Go on YouTube, you do that at home. And some of them would come back and they'd know the routine off by heart the next week. They didn't need to look at the screen and they were just enjoying it and having fun with their friends. And to me, that was my job done.
Yeah. I'm really pleased you said that actually, because you started that answer by talking about the leader of curriculum and teaching and learning, and you finish by saying the girls have come out the classroom, smiles on red faces, had a sweat, and hopefully have enjoyed it enough to go and do it beyond that lesson. So that's a really strong awareness. I'm really pleased you said that, because you're on my PE team as well, and that's exactly what I look for. So Fiona, everything we've talked about is raising awareness for the issues and things and the barriers that might mean girls move away from sport and activity. Let's finish with this. Let's talk about some success stories, because personally for me, if I can schedule myself onto one of the female football teams, won't be netball, but female football teams or whatever, I look forward to them because I love coaching the boys, but there's something about a group of girls who bring the energy, bring the enthusiasm, that's really enjoyable. So if I think back to some of the students I've taught and girls who've went right the way through to year 13 playing, I absolutely love that. And I think about the school who I left previously before I moved to Jebel Ali. One of the proudest achievements I've got is that they've got teams all the way to under 19, and they've probably got multiple teams now, because there's that culture of girls playing. And it wasn't just me, it was the PE team and facilities and everything else we had. But girls playing sport to under 19, multiple girls who I can think of now, and also girls at our school who play multiple sports. They don't specialise. There's girls that we've got that'll play football term 1, they'll play netball term 2, they'll fit a bit of rugby in, they'll swim. I'm not going to name names, those students know who they are, but they are so strong role models. Going back to what you said before, we probably should utilise them more.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me about girls that you've had in your education career that you think stand out and just epitomise role models for female sport.
Yeah, I think I did a lot, very netball heavy back in the UK, set up an academy programme within the school. And a couple of students that come to mind ended up finishing playing with me in the West Yorkshire Leagues.
Wow, okay.
So their journey, success is very different. You can go down the competitive performance route, you can go down the route that you were describing about still participation. Yeah. One particular student that comes to mind she was playing in year 7, the academy, and then got through to the West Yorkshire trials, then the Yorkshire trials, and then decided that she needed a little bit of time out, which is fine. Like, you don't have to always go down your England pathway, but then continued to still play at university. And then when we came back from university and throughout university, decided to play for an adult team and reached out to PE teachers, that she had, and was like, what teams, like, still reaching out to you, 20 years old, still reaching out, like, what's a good club in this area? And we ended up playing together, because I moved clubs, and we ended up playing together right up until I moved out here to Dubai. Yeah. And for me, a student like that, that's my job done. Parents, supporting the whole way through. That they were one of the parents that were stood on the sideline every game, every training session, every club match, and she's still playing. And as long as she continues to play, your job as a teacher is done, and they've succeeded, and you also, I have that feeling where it's like, that's great.
That's lifelong participation, isn't it?
Exactly. And there are so many other students as well who haven't necessarily gone down and still played netball that you were asking them to play every single week. But I saw a student when in the gym maybe 2 months before I came out here. She recognised me. She looked very different from 16 leaving school. She was 22. And she, miss. And I was like, oh my word, hiya, you all right? But she was into fitness. She was into something that was still physically active. And we had a joke. She hated PE. And she was like, I just I hated the competitive element of the structured curriculum, right? And we had a really good chat about it. And I just said, you know what? You're inspiring me to do some more changes. Go back to a curriculum and have a look and go, what are we doing for students like you? You're into fitness. Clearly, you're into fitness. You're a PT now as well. So you're clearly into it. But when you were back at school, did we do you justice to get you into that? And I think you've got to reflect every single time you see a student that's not necessarily enjoying what you're doing in a lesson. Yeah. Ask them why. Yeah. What is it about this that you don't like? What is it about parkour you don't like? All right? Oh, I just don't. I hate like gymnastics element. And take that on board and change your curriculum based on that to have successful students.
We can always do better is what I'm going to take away from this. And there's ideas, and I think we just, first of all, the awareness, right? The awareness of it. We know about it, but obviously the issues behind or some of the factors, and there's loads of research on this now. The awareness needs to be there.
Yeah.
The willingness to act needs to be there. It is there. But let's finish on this. Let's try and champion female sport, because we've talked about some success stories. For me, the females, they mature earlier, potentially, and they're a joy to coach.
Yeah.
They will take on board tactical instruction, strategy. They're an absolute dream and pleasure to be around in terms of bring the energy, bring the enthusiasm. They have those interrelationships a little bit easier nailed down than the boys. I don't mind saying that. But it just needs to keep going in this vein. We need to pull in the role models. We need to sit down with the people who make decisions in program, curriculum.
Yeah.
I think that would be fair. And keep doing what we're doing, because you did say we're in a good place right now with Dubai. But I think we can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being part of that journey.
Awesome. Fiona, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.